Hi, my name is David Bushnell, and I may not look it, but I love video games. There's so many different kind of video games that almost every person can enjoy them. Some games exercise the mind and others are made purely for enjoyment. However, society must watch out because video games are an incredibly addictive substance. When someone mentions an addictive substance, images that often come to mind are drugs or alcohol. But the truth of the matter is video games are one of the fastest growing addictions in the United States. I'd like to tell you a story of a close friend of mine who almost had video game addiction wreck his life. For confidentiality's sake, we'll call this friend Dante. Now, Dante was not a person you would think of as a video game addict. He was doing well in school, taking AP classes. He was well liked by his friends, and his family never even knew what was going on. However, for 2 years, he was harboring a deep, dark secret. Dante was getting up every morning very early just to play a few hours of video games before school. In addition, he would rush home and he would spend hours and hours playing video games, putting off his homework until the very last minute. Dante's weekends were spent in a similar fashion. He would lock himself in his room and only come out for meals. For 2 years, he averaged 2 hours of sleep a night until he finally crashed. Early in the summer of his senior year, his body gave out and he nearly died. Video games had sucked all the life out of him. His family slowly nursed him back to health. Dante is now back to being a normal human being. However, he has drastically limited the amount of video games he played. As you can see, video game addiction is a growing problem in society. This is just one example of one story. I've had many friends and family members come to me and tell me of their video game addiction. So, what can we do to prevent video game addiction? Though I believe that people are responsible for their own actions, we can see the signs of video game addiction popping up in people around us and steer them in the right direction. Contrary to popular belief, antisocial behavior is not a common sign of video game addiction, but behavior of trying to get friends or family to play the newest game or join in on this quest or this match or this clan, which is basically an online team. These are common indicators of video game addiction. Now, unlike most drugs, video games are painless to detox from or to come off of. There are no really harmful detox side effects. So, how does one come off of video game addiction? Well, like any other recovery, you can only begin with the admission of a problem. If an individual does not want to change, he or she will not change, no matter how hard you try to make them. With that being said, I've had a number of close family members and friends come to me telling me of their video game addiction. So I have developed a 4-step method to help kick video game addiction. Step 1, cold turkey. It is important that you stop any intake of video game stimuli, whether it be console gaming, PC gaming, online gaming, or even mobile apps, or even games on calculators. You must make sure that you cut off any kind of video game intake. Now, the second step is getting accountability. This basically means you go to a close friend, family member, or mentor and ask them to come alongside you and tell them that, hey, I have a problem with video game addiction. And I was wondering if you could just come and check in with me, make sure that I'm not relapsing. Having a mentor or a family member do this for you will keep you from relapsing. Step 3, write it out. After you have dropped video games completely and found someone to hold you accountable, you need to not return to video games for a minimum of 3 months or longer, depending on how severe the addiction. Fill that time with something else, maybe photography, maybe hanging out with friends. Don't fill it with just a single thing though, because this isn't kicking an addiction, this is shifting the addiction. When you fill that void that video games have left with a single thing, that is not kicking the addiction, that is shifting the addiction. Now, the fourth and final step is reassess. After your 3-month period, meet with your accountability partner and decide whether you should or should not go back to playing video games. Some people after 3 months will be fine. They'll have limited and be able to control how much video games they play. However, some people will not. For some people, they will not be able to go back and play video games again without a full-blown relapse. Some people, like myself, will be able to go back and play video games occasionally and for very limited amounts of time. So in conclusion, video game addiction is a very real thing. It happens to the most unlikely people. Even though video games are very fun, we must always be wary of addiction. Patrick J. Kennedy once stated, "No one is immune to addiction. It affects people of all ages, races, classes, and professions." It is for this reason that I believe we, the people of the United States, have a moral obligation to stop the spread of video game addiction. Thank you very much.